Good day, everyone. Welcome to the upcoming webinar, which is going to be on is it possible? Sorry, why are diabetic patients still having hyperglycemia despite diet regulation, antiglycemic medication, and insulin? Dr. Huang Ling will be delivering her beautiful talk on this particular topic. Before we start the webinar, we will be having a short introduction of Dr. Huang Ling. Dr. Huang Ling, born in Taiwan, raised and graduated in medicine in Brazil, specialist in infectious and parasitic diseases, a general practitioner and parenteral and maternal medical nutrition therapist. Once in charge of the hospital infection control service of the city of Franca's General Hospital. She was responsible for the control of all prescribed antimicrobial medication and received an award for the best paper presented at the Brazilian Hospital Infection Control Congress in 1998. Since 1997, she works with the approach and treatment of all chronic diseases in a holistic way, with treatment guided through the teachings of traditional Chinese medicine and Hippocrates. Researcher in the University of Sao Paulo in the ophthalmology department from 2012 to 2013. She is a wonderful human being and she is being treating the world with her different approaches. Till now, we had a few webinars of her, and out of them, the webinars comprised of energy alterations and chakras, energy deficiencies, and propensity to coronavirus infection, the importance of correcting energy imbalances in the prevention and treatment of myocardial infarction, energy alterations as the underlying cause of primary hypertension. And upcoming webinar after this will be is it possible to treat community acquired and nosocomial infections with the same method without the use of antibiotics? And current talk will be focusing on why are diabetic patients still having hyperglycemia despite diet regulation, antiglycemic medication, and insulin. These days we can see many are suffering from diabetes, and they call it as genetic and hereditary. And also we have this particular diabetes in the human beings from young age onwards. So I guess the coming talk will be very useful for the people who are actually seeking many other solutions for their problems. I welcome Dr. Huang Ling, and I welcome all the attendees for the upcoming webinar. If attendees are having any questions, they can put their questions in the questions bar, or they can even raise their hand so that I'll make them to talk to Dr. Huang Ling. Thanks a lot, and I welcome Dr. Huang Ling to take care of this particular session. Dr. Wing, you can go ahead with the session.
Okay, thank you, Kumar, for my introduction. And thank you for inviting me to come into your webinar to present this study about why are diabetic patients still having hyperglycemia despite diet regulation, antiglycemic medication, and insulin. In my presentation today, I will show you that there are differences in the conception of diabetes in Western and in traditional Chinese medicine, but they share the same goal, that is lowering hyperglycemia. I will start the presentation today describing the usual treatment in Western medicine, and then I will expose what could be the cause of diabetic patients still having hyperglycemia despite diet regulation, antiglycemic medication, and insulin. The International Diabetes Federation has estimated that worldwide a person dies from diabetes every 6 seconds. And the World Health Organization states that the number of people with diabetes has risen from 108 million in 2018 to 422 million in 2014. Keeping up this morbid statistic, 1 in 3 North American adults will have diabetes by 2050. The age range of diagnosis is between 40 to 59 years old. If not fatal, it can lead to impotence, amputation, kidney failure, blindness, and heart disease. As it's a common knowledge, diabetes mellitus manifests itself in two different ways. According to Western medicine, type 1 diabetes is characterized by absolute insulin deficiency and therefore insulin intake dependence. Physicians propose explanations in various dietary constitution and identify agents that initiate the command for destruction of insulin production pancreatic cells. There is no cure, and diabetes type 1 is considered an immune-associated, if not directly immune-mediated disease. Type 2 diabetes is characterized by the body's inability to produce sufficient insulin for the body's requirements. Some physicians advocate that type 2 diabetes is a lifestyle disease bound to obesity and a sedentary lifestyle, thus being possible to be managed through diet, exercise, and medication. According to Western medicine, the imperative for a low saturated fat intake in both types of diabetes is the single most important need to the patient. A close second is the need for physical activity, for it provides the action of insulin, reduces blood pressure, improves the lipid profile, reduces the risk of heart disease and strokes, and helps the most in the goal of maintain or lose weight. This Western medicine-based introduction was developed so we can reach to this point of the presentation, the point where traditional Chinese medicine invites you to another point of view of the diabetes disease. What Western medicine refers to diabetes mellitus, traditional Chinese medicine refers to a wasting thirst syndrome, or Xiao Ke. The goal of Western and Oriental medicine, of course, it's the same, to lower blood glucose. The diagnosis and treatment, though, are very different. Chronic diseases are multifactorial by nature, and one of the greatest strengths of traditional Chinese medicine is that the theory views the human body and its functioning in a holistic way. From this perspective, no single body part or symptoms can be understood apart from its relation to the whole. Before a disease is diagnosed at a laboratory, radiological level, or by complementary tests, there has already been an alteration in their energy level in the phase 1, 2, and 3. Where the patient has symptoms, but the tests are still normal. In this slide, we are showing the various phases where disease progresses in a healthy body. During phase 1 to 3, only a slowing of the organ functions occur because of energy imbalances, and the patient has and complains of symptoms, but the results of laboratory exams are normal. At phase 4, the laboratory exam shows some alterations and the disease is curable. And at the phase 5, the exams are very altered and the cellular damage is reversible and disease incurable. This is in the case of cancer patients. That the energy imbalances from phases 1 to 3 could take more than 5 years to develop to be able to be detected in the laboratory exams. As presented in my previous presentation in some weeks ago, the metaphor of the tree, as you can see, the tree has a trunk with several branches. Each branch represents each medical specialty, and each leaves that coming out from each branch represent symptoms and disease of each specialty. It is this visible part that is the object of study and practice in the Western medical profession because of the curriculum offered in the medical schools around the world. The focus is to treat each leaf in its specialty. This model of medicine practiced in most medical schools in the West was implanted according to the ideas of the Greek physician Galen, who wrote theories about the functioning of the human body as divided into systems. Each organ would be self-sufficient, working separately from one another. All that was exposed in this first part of this presentation corresponds to a symptom or disease within the specialty of the endocrinology. And this symptom of diabetes would be represented by a leaf and endocrinology, a tree branch of the human body. However, there are other points of view which come from other traditions, such as the example I'm bringing you today, referred to as traditional Chinese medicine. We can point out similarities between TCM and the teachings of Hippocrates, of course, considered the father of medicine. Hippocrates was a Greek physician who proposed a theory that disease originated from the imbalance of the four humors, which are blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. These humors determine the temperaments, which are sanguine, phlegmatic, choleric, and melancholic. Every physical body has in itself the elements to recover, as nature itself is the only healer, and the physician simply limits himself to accompany and obey nature. As we look at this figure, we can see that the tree is an allegory of the human body. The part of the tree that is below the earth, that is invisible to the naked eye, are its roots. Thus, they represent the theory of the five elements and the Yin and Yang theory. Traditional Chinese medicine invites the individual as a whole, including the environment, the external and climatic factors such as cold, wind, dryness, heat, and humidity. In the same way, a tree needs to be strong, to have a strong roots to grow. The body has to be in balance to be healthy. Also, in the same way, the environment will influence the health of the tree. The environment will influence the health of the body. TCM looks at patterns of disharmony, which includes all presenting signs and symptoms, as well as patients' emotional and physical response. Humans are viewed both as a reflection of integral part of the nature, and health results from maintaining harmony and balance within the body and between body and nature. In order to understand why are diabetic patients still having hyperglycemia despite diet regulation, antiglycemic medication, and insulin, it's important to know that the human body is composed by energy. And the imbalance of these energies that lead to the diabetes symptoms studied by traditional Chinese medicine is what I will present to you today. To begin to understand the root of the problem, we turn towards the Yin and Yang theory of energy and theory of the five elements. They are interdependent. There is always a bit of Yin within Yang and a bit of Yang within Yin. Yang energy is characterized by activity, movement, and Yin energy is characterized by matter. Where one ends, the other begins. In this slide, we're showing the various ways of presenting balance and imbalance between Yin and Yang. The first column on the left represents the balance state between Yin and Yang, where you have the same height between the two. In the case of the diabetes, is characterized by increased Yang leading to relative indeficiency, increased Yang leading to relative indeficiency, increased Yang indeficiency, represented by the third and fourth column in this chart. And to be healthy, we need to have the energy balance. And this energy we need to work are yin, yang, qi, and blood. A deficiency in one of these four elements, for example, a yin deficiency, will generate other alteration this balance state and generate an imbalance cycle. If there is a deficiency in one of these elements, can create another imbalance that is heat formation, like a fire inside the body. And this is any imbalance in any of the four energy will generation internal heat, and this internal heat formation will generate the high glycemia. Now I will briefly explain what each of these components are. In Chinese medicine terms, blood functions to nourish and vitalize the whole body. The health blood is characterized by a radiant complexion, lustrous hair, sharp senses, well-developed muscles, and coordinated motor skills. However, to maintain blood's free-flowing state, another energy force must work in harmony with it. Qi is the vital energy that invigorates blood to keep it circulating throughout the body. And blood and qi have a very important relationship and are mutually dependent. Qi prevents blood stagnation and blood nourishes qi. The Chinese concept of healthy blood cannot be seen in isolation from the organs it nourishes. In fact, healthy blood depends upon healthy functioning of the body's major organ meridian system, like its heart, liver, lung, kidney, spleen, and we will know all about it in a minute. Qi is translated into English as a vital energy. Qi must flow in the correct quantity and quality through the meridians, which are pathways through which qi is constantly flowing and circulating throughout the body. Two major patterns of disharmony are associated with qi. Deficiency qi occurs when there is insufficient qi to perform the functions of life. Stagnant qi refers to impairment of the normal movement of qi through the meridians and may result in aches and pains in the body. Yin and Yang are produced in the meridians of the kidney. And the other theory based in traditional Chinese medicine principles of treatment is the theory of the five elements. After the comprehension of the matter and of the Yin and Yang archetype, the Chinese wise men were able to observe another feature from the nature, the relation between the basic elements, wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. Traditional Chinese medicine observes and systematizes the relationship between the elements into cycles of the generation and control cycle. And then they observe these cycles would also happen inside the body. In the human body, each element is associated with an organ. And every living thing and every person is a unique embodiment and combination of these five elements. Therefore, when it comes to our health, if all five elements are in balance within us, then we're a state of optimum health, wellness in the body, mind, and spiritual level. In the traditional Chinese medicine viewpoint of balanced eating is a diet which includes all the five tastes: spicy, salty, sour, bitter, and sweet. If a taste is craved or consumed too often, then the opposite effect will happen. There will be a weakening effect of the organ functioning. As I said before, the main difference between Western and traditional Chinese medicine can be understood when comprehending the model presented by Galen. And the first of this cycle is the Shen cycle shown in this slide, also known as generating cycle. In this cycle, each element serves as a mother, which promotes the growth and development of the child element. Each element provides a generating force for the element that follows it. The cycle continually gives rise to change and transformation. Secondly, we have the control cycle known as co-cycle here. Its role is to prevent any given element from becoming overwhelming or too powerful in relation to the system as a whole. In terms of our family relationship metaphor, is the grandmother that exerts this healthy control of their grandchild element. In this theory, earth can stop water, water can stop a fire, fire can melt metal, metal can cut wood, and wood can consume earth. When yin, yang, qi, and blood becomes deficient, it leads to a heat formation, which is, in this particular case of diabetes, is the major factor leading to the rise of blood glucose together with yin deficiency. The Shao-Ke disease, TCM terms for diabetes, was traditionally based on 3 excess or 1 loss symptoms: excessive fluid drinking, excessive food consumption, excessive urination, and weight loss. And its core pathogens is indeficiency and dryness heat. As you can see in this chart, East is lower than Yang. The most common manifestation of diabetes are excessive thirst, hunger, and urination, associated respectively with the upper, middle, and lower burner aspects of the body. Upper burner, known as heat in the lungs. The primary symptom of this pattern is excessive thirst. Here. The middle burner relates to the stomach fire. The primary symptom of this pattern is excessive hunger. And the lower burner related to kidney deficiency. The primary symptoms of this pattern is excessive urination. These studies are deep, complex, and varied, and all I can do with the time I have available is to give you a general overview of the main concepts, but the main point here is to emphasize how these ideas explain a variety of symptoms and complications. Through traditional Chinese medicine, a same energy disharmony can lead to several different diseases. The plus side would be that also through traditional Chinese medicine, it's possible to treat various symptoms through the same method. Often, the doctor is not even aware of the condition of the patient, but through a deeper treatment at the root of the problem, everything can improve at the same time. I'm currently treating a patient in my clinic, and I would like to share his history with you. The patient is a 26-year-old man, a teacher, diagnosed with type 2 diabetes in 2016. After a routine exam, his glycemia appeared as 180 mg per dl, and he went to a specialist and was diagnosed with pre-diabetes. The endocrinologist oriented him to suspend the intake of pasta and high-carb vegetables as the potatoes. In 2016, his glycemia kept getting higher, now up to 200 milligrams per dl, and he received a prescription of metformin, 500 milligrams twice a day, together with controlled eating habits and exercise. The patient is a teacher and works from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. His routine is stressful. He does not have time to eat better. His breakfast is usually coffee and bread with butter. Then he would drink coffee again in the middle of the morning, and within his 20 minutes of lunch, going to one school to another, he managed to eat a natural sandwich with bread and raw vegetables as lettuce and carrots. Until the end of the day, his only intake is cold water and hot coffee. At night, when he stopped working constantly at 9 p.m., he goes home and usually eats a microwave pizza or lasagna. In the beginning of 2017, his hemoglobin A1C was around 8.5%, and his median glucose would be 250 milligrams per dl. The intake of medication was increased with 2 grams of metformin, 10 milligrams dapagliflozin, and again the medication would not help. In the end of the year, he would start the intake of the third medication, glimepiride, 4 milligrams. Into September 2018, however, the hemoglobin started growing again. It was 10%. And several times he had to go to the hospital because the high glycemia above 750 milligrams per dl. And after that, he currently takes insulin. This structure I gave him are equally important to explain why diabetic patients are still having hyperglycemia despite diet regulation, antiglycemic medication, and insulin. I will now discuss the habits that this patient could change according to traditional Chinese medicine reasoning to reduce the blood glucose. The diet normally oriented in Western medicine is mainly based on the reduction of sugar intake, but the use of artificial sweeteners is very common. Regarding diet, the dietary guidelines made by traditional Chinese medicine is based on the energy of each food to treat the energy imbalance of each individual. So the foods that each individual can receive will depend on the imbalance he has and the energy that food will cause in that individual specifically. One common imbalance caused by a Western diet is the ingestion of raw food, especially fruits and salads, dairy products, and eating lots of sweets. This diet leads to a deficiency of spleen pancreas meridian, and this energy is responsible for the absorption of nutrients for the subsequent production of blood, which subsequently produce in energy. If this meridian becomes deficient or weak, it begins to absorb less nutrients, form less blood, and consequently causes in energy deficiency. In energy deficiency is the main cause of diabetes, according to traditional Chinese medicine. And in addition, this deficiency can cause an abnormal retention of phlegm in the body, being one of the causes of overweight and obesity. And the patient's diet is mainly based on coffee, cold water, raw food, and dairy products. Coffee can cause a deficiency of kidney energy, leading to indeficiency and worsening the diabetes case, even without putting sugar in it. Cold water, raw food, and dairy products can cause deficiency in the spleen pancreas. And besides, the intake of cold water deserves our special attention. When we intake cold water, we intake the cold energy of it. Our body, in order to balance its temperature again, will respond creating internal heat. There are also foods that can create internal heat directly, increasing the heat in those who already have it. They are fried food, coconut, pepper, honey, dairy products, mainly melted cheese, chocolate, alcoholic beverages, and eggs. Western medicine is unaware of the fact that there are other foods that can imbalance the internal energy and lead to energy deficiency. That is the cause of the problems leading to diabetes symptoms, according to traditional Chinese medicine. I've advised my patients to cut off all intake of coffee, soda, be it normal or diet, and matcha tea because these drinks can lead to indeficiency. And in the ideal diet, according to traditional Chinese medicine, a person has to eat every day the 5 flavors, such as sweet, sour, bitter, spicy, and salty. Some people may confuse the guidance of traditional Chinese medicine regarding the ingestion of sweet tastes every day. But the sweet taste they refer, it's not sweet like chocolate, etc., or candy, but is a more subtle flavor. For example, cooked beets or corn without the addition of salt. You can notice a subtle sweetness in these foods, a light sweet taste that feeds the element, and it is completely unrelated to sugar intake. Even a patient who uses sweeteners without calories will be imbalanced distinct pancreas and energy meridian, thus leading to indeficiency too. A chain of events unfolds when the spleen pancreas is imbalanced, inducing a lower blood production, which consequently leads to blood deficiency. Blood deficiency leads to indeficiency and can increase the risk of diabetes. In the example of the patient that's already diabetic, the wrong diet is worsening his case. So I usually indicate to my patient to ingest warm water, heat it on the fire, and keep it on the thermic bottle to avoid this kind of energy disturbances. In addition, it's necessary to suspend all dairy products and ingest fruit, boiled or salty vegetables. Most fruits have cold energy with the exception of papaya, apple, and lemon, which are neutral. Therefore, to neutralize the cold energy, it is usually advised to cook, bake, or eat the dried food, thus avoiding said imbalance of the spleen pancreas. Another food I recommend my patients to avoid is the white flour. In the past, white flour did not generate healthy problems that it generates now. Due to more than 14 documented genetic changes, said transgenic foods has led to increased appetite, abdominal fat accumulation, and increased blood glucose, and increased risk of cholesterol and body pain. The patient in the case report described to drink 1.5 liters of water per day and to drink coffee during all the meals and breaks during classes. These habits have an influence in the diabetic condition according to traditional Chinese medicine. The case report patient has about 90 kilograms and reasoning the ideal is a person to consume 35 ml per kilogram of water per day, and he has to consume more than 3 liters of water per day. And the patient consumes half of what he needs every day. And the lack of adequate water ingestion will cause indeficiency as the yin energy is produced in the kidney, and the kidney needs water to be nourished, leading to energy imbalances that can lead to the constant high glycemia. The patient also described to eat a lot of pizza, lasagna, and other food with melted cheese. The melted cheese can also create internal heat in the gallbladder meridian, also increasing the hyperglycemia. Eating too fast is also another problem in the patient's routine. The habit of eating very fast, according to traditional Chinese medicine, leads to imbalance of the energy of the stomach and the spleen pancreas, leading to the malabsorption of nutrients and leading in the future to other deficiencies generating heat and hyperglycemia. The second instruction I gave to the patient and that can be used by the all diabetic patient is regarding the emotions. The stressful life and environment influence the body negatively. In traditional Chinese medicine, the increased blood sugar is associated with excessive and constant anger, worry, grief, or fear. These emotions can injure the liver meridian, spleen pancreas meridian, the lung meridian, and the kidney meridian, respectively. The imbalances will cause more internal heat in a vicious cycle. The patient also described to sleep badly, less than 4 hours per day preparing his class to the next day. The energy of the kidney is replenished during the night during sleep, and the ideal sleeping time according to TCM is 9 p.m. And without 8 hours of sleep recommended at night, the energy of the kidney is not adequately replenished, leading to the formation of internal heat, and in this specific case, hyperglycemia. And we are going to start now another session of the presentation in which I will be discussing a current subject, that field study approach. I have compiled some literature data and will show you how I approach it in my clinical practice. Now I will talk about their electromagnetic radiation effects on health and its influence on the body's energy, another possible cause of developing energy imbalances that can lead to hyperglycemia or diabetes in the future. Holistic health techniques are about restoring the body's internal energy to allow it to heal. From this point of view, we can see that anything we do to disrupt this balance in our society consists more and more of disruption of this balance is harmful to our health and should be avoided. When we microwave food, the structure of the water molecules are ripped apart and deformed. Alive, healthy, and nutritious food can become dead in a matter of seconds when we use a microwave. We are the only species on the planet that destroys the nutrient content of our food before eating it. The subject about electromagnetic radiation is extremely complex, but considering we are formed by energy, the electromagnetic radiation is terrible bad for the energies of our bodies. The microwave reduces the energy of the food, and the human who ingests a food without energy will not nourish itself with the energy from this food, and leading to a weakness of the internal organs and meridians. This can also be a result of other electromagnetic radiation, such as the exposition to computers, cell phones, and these days. And the patient described to use the microwave daily for the quick intake of different kinds of foods. And the patient also described other different habits that disturb the energy of the body and should be avoided. The patient stayed constantly in his cell phone, and the cell phone was his entertainment during all his day and night, and he would read, work, and communicate using it. In the constant use of cell phones, in the same way of the microwaves, are not healthy to the body, especially if the person maintains the cell phone too close to the body all the time. To study how the energy of my patient is, I hand a technique called the radiesthesia, which I present in another studies for you, which use a crystal pendulum to measure the energy of the 7 main chakras. There are 7 main chakras that connect to the nerve points in the body, and according to Western practice, these 7 points affect the nervous system and the endocrine glands. Chakras are centers where major nerve points meet and where life force or prana flows harmoniously. The chakra theory coincides with the 5 elements theory in traditional Chinese medicine, In this way, we are measuring each of the elements described by TCM. And I measured this patient's chakra in the case report, and his energy level could vary from 1 to 8, being 8 the normal level and 1 the minimal level. And his energy was all 1 in all his 7 chakras. This profound lack of energy of the chakras will generate the formation of internal heat, and in this way generate an increase in the blood glucose. Usually the treatment I perform in the chakra using highly diluted medication such as homeopathies lead to a gradual reduction of this glycemia. It is interesting that the patient noticed that when he eats after this treatment of the replenishing of the energy of the chakra, the glycemia does not increase anymore as there is less internal heat formation. So the patient could start diminishing many times the hypoglycemic medication intake and have a more free choice what to eat without increasing glycemia too much. And this lack of energy in the chakras is very common in all diabetes patients, type 1 diabetes, type 2 diabetes, and gestational diabetes patients. And it's in my study, in my daily practice, this is the main cause of the formation of diabetes. And if we treat this lack of energy, the patient, all the diabetes patient can recover. And I cannot say now they will cure the diabetes, but probably, yeah, because this study is, I am studying not very long, for 2 years the diabetes patient, and in my daily practice, all my diabetes patients are treating this energy deficient in the chakras, and all of them are reducing their medication and reducing the insulin intake and reducing the complication of diabetes when we treat this chakras energy deficiency. And I think they can, in the near future, be cured of diabetes. I don't know if I can say it for diabetes type 1, but I have 2 patients that has diabetes type 1 that is usually using insulin, that are reducing the use of insulin too when associated to Chinese dietary counseling, auricular acupuncture with apex bloodletting, and replenishing the chakras energy using high diluted medication. And this is very interesting results. And the treatment I usually do for replenishing the chakras and the diabetic patient is acupuncture in order to rebalance the energy of Yin and Yang, moxibustion, which is a technique within Chinese medicine to carry energy deficient energy meridian, and homeopathy to give more energy to these chakras, and medicine based on crystals. Each crystals that can be seen in this slide can replenish the energy of one specific chakra. You may notice that I'm using homeopathy as one of the forms of treatment. Why was this chosen instead of conventional medications? And the use of high diluted medication was chosen according to Arndt-Schultz law. As the patient has had no energy, this prescription of high concentrated medication could induce more reduction of the vital energy, leading to the formation of more internal heat and consequently worsening the hyperglycemia. On the contrary, the prescription of this kind of medication, such as homeopathy and crystal-based medication, is replenishing the lack of the energy of his chakra and therefore reducing the formation of his internal heat and consequently leading to decrease of the hyperglycemia. And the patient I described in this case report increased the intake of medication many times, showing no improvement as we explained before. In the case of diabetes treatment, I understand that both medicines should be used to better understand and control diabetes. And and the conclusion of this study, finally, is in order to have a better understanding of the causes of why our diabetic patient is still having hyperglycemia despite diet regulation, antiglycemic medication, and insulin, we should have a more holistic view of the human being from an energy point of view, which usually is not yet studied by Western medical school. However, since our human body is formed by energy, deep understanding of the formation, transformation of the various energy to maintain health or to develop an illness is essential for a real cure of the patient we are treating, in this case, diabetic patient. The constant intake of high concentrated medication also causes a lack of the vital energy, thus causing the formation of internal heat, and thus worsening the symptoms in the vicious cycle. This is a Hippocrates quote. It's far more natural forces within us are the true healers of the disease. It's far more important to know what person the disease has than what disease the person has. We need to treat the patient, not the disease. And thank you for listening to this presentation. This today's presentation, it's published in the International Journal of Diabetes, and you can search. The title is the same of this presentation, and you put my name. You can see this study online at the internet. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Huang Weiling, for your insightful presentation. That was too informative. And as I was already telling in this introduction part, that many of current people are suffering from diabetes, which is a common disease these days. And people totally rely on strong antibiotics and also a few heavy medicines, which are actually not advisable, which also have some side effects to the other organs of the
Yeah.
body. So, always maintaining our internal forces as said by Hippocrates, and also having all our chakras balanced according to the methods and methodologies that you have explained in the case reports will actually help the generation and also future generations very much. And if we can also follow this chakra treatment regularly, we can also eradicate this particular hereditary disease not passing through the next generations. This is very important because our future generations should be very healthy, as we should actually switch to our basic modes, that is traditional medicine.
Yeah,
Thanks a
yeah.
lot for your that beautiful session. And among the participants today, there is a question from Vijayanta Sirkar. He says that is there any side effect for long time use of antiglasmic drugs? How it can be reduced? I just want to know about this because I am a diabetic patient who is aged 28. He's 28 years old and he's being suffering from the diabetes. So he's asking that is there any side effects of long time use of antiglycemic drugs, and how can we reduce the usage of antiglycemic drugs?
Yes, as I said in my clinical daily practice, I know that the majority of the patient who has diabetes or other disease, all chronic disease, in my opinion, has deficiency in the chakras and the meridians. And in the case of diabetes, I know that he has diabetes.
Yes, he is having
Yeah,
diabetes.
yeah. You probably you have deficiency in the chakras energy too, and it's better to improve your diet first in the case of intaking the medication, because all the diet you are using now could be inducing the hyperglycemia, and that's why you need to stop drinking cold water first, stop drinking, taking raw food and cooking it or grilled. And in China, they usually drink only warm water. The temperature of water should be at 32 degrees, because inside your body it's about 35 degrees. And if you ingest cold water, it will cause a production of that heat formation that will increase diabetes too. And if you begin to put your water and ingest the warm water, you will see that your diabetes will reduce dramatically. And you need to take out the, how can I say? The white flour too, and all coffee, and soda, hot tea, and not eat coconut, and eggs can increase diabetes too, and fried food, melted cheese, and alcoholic beverage. All these food will increase your diabetes before you intake the medication. If you do all these changes in your diet and you is still increasing your diabetes, glycemia, I think if you can measure your chakras and begin to intake the homeopathic medication, you can email me and I can orientate you what kind of medication and you need to take, and I can orientate you to reduce this medication, because this medication, as I explained, according to that Arndt-Schultz law, is a high concentrated medication. And high concentrated medication will reduce even more your vital energy that is already low. And if you maintain your ingestion of this kind of medication, we increase the heat formation inside. You can see that your mouth is the sign and symptoms of the formation of heat is that dry mouth, bad breath, bleeding gums, and itching in the body, and like pimples in the skins. And if you this is a sign and symptoms of the formation of heat retention. And if it's better to you to begin the changes in the diet first, do the exercise 3 times a week, and try to improve your vital energy taking high diluted medication, and you can see that in the near future you can reduce or take out your antiglycemic medication that is inducing the formation of more energy imbalances and more internal heat formation and more hyperglycemia due to the intake of the medication that you are using to reduce the glycemia.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, you can email me and I can orientate you which kind of homeopathy you need to take, and I can treat you in Brazil here. Okay.
Okay, that's great. Hope the question has been answered. And yes, not only the person who actually raised the question, everyone have to understand the importance of this energy treatment, because if your chakras are having energy orientations, then it can heal lot of diseases and lot of factors that actually cause harm to our body. So yeah, those are the questions, Dr. Huang. If you want to add any point, you can, or else I'll just end the session.
Okay, there is no question more?
No questions more.
Okay. I thank you very much for you to listen to this study. That I think it's very important to us to understand the another point of view of energy alteration in the diabetes formation. And this is very important to treat our patient. And first, we need to treat us. We need to be healthy to treat our patient better. And we need to know all these difference in the diet changes and why the medication are causing more hyperglycemia, and to have a better health in the future, better world
Yes.
to us. Okay, thank you
Uh,
very much for your attention.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for Dr. Huang Weiling for delivering such a wonderful speech on diabetes. And our future webinar will be on, is it possible to treat community acquired and nosocomial infections with the same method without the use of antibiotics, which will be held on 11th July 2020. I hope all the attendees to also attend to that session also. Thanks a lot for our honorable speaker for having a wonderful time every weekend, and thanks a lot for all the attendees who have all the way come to attend the webinar. Thank you. I'm ending the session.
Thank you. See you next week. Bye
Thank you.
bye.
Bye.